Beverly, hi! Oh, I know it's been wild, right? When things finally open up after the siege, I think I'm finally gonna go on that Italian getaway I've been putting off for years just to be out of these walls and get a little normalcy, right? What's that sound? Is that what is that? Ah!
The Middle Ages were magic.
Biological warfare. I'm not gonna lie, weaponizing disease to take out major populations is a bit of a terrifying thought for me, as it is for most people. But what you may not realize is that humans have been trying to weaponize diseases for thousands of years. Of course they have, long before they even understood them. Today, we're talking about perhaps the most insidious act of biological warfare ever attempted, involving airborne corpses. Let's just do the title card again.
The Middle Ages were magic.
In the 14th century, the city of Caffa, now in Ukraine, was diverse and cosmopolitan. It was right on the ocean, but protected on land by two rings of heavy fortified walls. The city had been purchased by Italian merchants from the Mongolian Golden Horde and rose to monopolize trade in the region. Relations between the Christian traders and the Muslim Mongols were frequently strained, and in the 1340s, Johnny Beg, the reigning Khan of the Golden Horde, attempted multiple assaults on the walled city. The multi-year Siege of Caffa had begun!
Hooray!
But by 1346, the siege was going poorly. No thanks to a pesky outbreak of the Black Plague among the Mongol troops. According to an account from the time, the soldiers died as soon as the signs of disease appeared on their bodies. Swellings in the armpit or groin caused by coagulating humors, followed by a putrid fever. The Golden Horde could not continue their siege of Caffa with their troops dying en masse from the plague. Sorry boys, guess it's time to pack up and head home. Oh no, not just yet. The Mongols were like, bros, we've got all these plague bodies. Now hear me out. They are stinky. No one wants a city full of diseasey, stinky corpses. Nowruz, why don't you and Timur load up those corpses onto the catapult and, just spitballing here, fling them over the wall. Does that sound? And that's what they did. They just kept catapulting their plague corpses into Caffa. Now, imagine you live in Caffa. You've been besieged and trapped inside the walls of the city for years, and then one day you're eating a sandwich, and plague-infested corpses begin raining down from the sky, plopping at your feet. What seemed like mountains of dead were thrown into the city, wrote Gabriel de Mussy in his 14th century account, which, like all medieval accounts, tends to have a few holes in the narrative, including him not actually being there for the siege, but it's the best we have. The Christians could not hide or flee or escape from them, although they dumped as many of the bodies as they could into the sea. And soon the rotting corpses tainted the air and poisoned the water supply, and the stench was so overwhelming. No one wants a catapult assault of corpses, I think we can all agree. On the list of things you want interrupting your bread making or weaving, it's darn near the bottom. The real question though is, were those flying corpses a hideous nuisance? Or were they responsible for an act of biological warfare, ultimately spreading the Black Plague first through the citizens of Caffa and subsequently through the entire Mediterranean?
Hooray!
De Mussy believed it was biological warfare. One infected man could carry the poison to others and infect people and places with the disease by look alone. No one knew or could discover a means of defense. Over time, the historical truth became that traders in Caffa were able to escape the siege on trade ships by sea, and after the assault took the plague with them to Genoa, Venice, and other Christian areas. When the sailors arrived and mingled with the people in the new city, it was as if they had brought evil spirits with them. Men and women started dropping dead. So the plague had arrived in Italy and spread throughout Europe via the survivors from the siege of Caffa who contracted the plague from catapulted corpses.
The Middle Ages were magic.
Given that more than a third of Europe's population would go on to die from the plague, this is no small claim. Flying Mongol corpses caused the plague. Done. This video was made with generous donation. Well, not quite. There are two workable hypotheses about how the flying corpses may have helped spread the illness, if they did spread the illness.
Hypothesis 1. Manhandling mangled Mongols.
According to historian of biological weapons, Mark Wiley, there is a reasonable chance that the people in Caffa who were handling the mangled and decomposing bodies that were flung over the wall could have had open wounds on their hands or body, thus putting themselves at risk for plague transmission. It's the same reason modern funeral directors wear personal protective equipment if someone died from an infectious disease. Let's say, Kevin of Caffa has been piling up plague corpses all day. Remember, there were allegedly literal mountains of plague corpses catapulted into Caffa. And he gets cuts on his hands because schlepping corpses is hard work. If he grabs a plague corpse and his open wound comes into contact with the corpse's open wound and blood from the corpse, Kevin could be infected with the plague. This is not the most likely scenario. Wound to wound is not Holy Palmer's kiss. It's a little Shakespeare. He would come later. And while this could account for some of the plague spreading in Caffa, it doesn't account for the further spread of the plague throughout Italy and Europe. It's not like the Mongols were also flinging corpses across the sea into Britain. The reality, modern scholars believe, was much more mundane. Which brings us to hypothesis 2. If you're a fan of this channel, you already know what I'm gonna say.
It was a rat! It was rats.
The historian Wiley believes that the spread to Europe was likely the same as it was elsewhere: fleas and rats.
It was rats!
We've talked about this before in our bubonic plague in San Francisco video.
The bubonic plague in America.
But basically, rats, which are everywhere, have fleas. Rats get the plague and are bitten by fleas. The rat dies and the fleas jump to a human, bites them, et voila! The human has the plague!
Hooray!
And the cycle continues. Rat infestations in the holds of cargo ships would have been highly susceptible to the rapid spread of the plague, Wiley wrote. And even if most rats died during the voyage, they would have left abundant hungry fleas. Those fleas were there to greet and then infect the unsuspecting humans unpacking the ships. It's no surprise that flying corpses were a sexier narrative than rats and fleas as a mode of plague transmission. I mean, the title of this video is about the flying corpses. We didn't call it "It's Probably Rats Again" for a reason.
It was rats!
It also fits how humans understood or misunderstood disease transmission for thousands of years. Well into the 19th century, the Western world believed that mere proximity to a corpse, plague infected or not, could make you ill. People believed that disease was in the odor, the fumes, the miasma, the bad air around the dead. And while a form of the plague, the pneumonic plague, is spread by inhaling respiratory droplets from coughs or sneezes, a corpse is not going to be coughing or sneezing. If it sneezes, it's not a corpse. It's what I always say. Even if the plague rats scurried into the ships, can we really call Caffa ground zero for spreading the plague in Italy and then Europe? Not really. Caffa was not the only Crimean port that the Mongols controlled, and thus not the only port exposed to the plague. Plus, there were overland trade routes to Europe. Either way, and put this on the screen for those corpse smirchers out there, living people are always going to be better at spreading disease than dead bodies. Even if the catapulting corpses didn't kill a third of Europe, still a wild story, right? That the Mongols even came up with that idea. What if I told you that the siege of Caffa was not the first time this had happened?
The Middle Ages were magic.
Of course medieval people catapulted more dead stuff at their enemies. If you're gonna go to the trouble of building a 65-foot tall catapult, you're gonna use it to fling some gnarly stuff. This is men we're talking about here. Hi everyone, it's been a rough week. In my last video, I made the claim that men enjoy launching dead things by catapult. I wish to apologize and say that not all men want to fling corpses by Catapult. For example, the French Catapult, or Trebuchet, was built not just for boulders, but also to fling the weight of a dead horse into besieged towns. Catapulting dead horses into towns in an attempt to make its people sick from bad horse air or water contamination was not as uncommon a practice as you might think in the Middle Ages.
We're magic.
During the Crusades, attackers would fling pretty much any horrific thing they could get their hands on over city walls. The corpses of leprosy victims, excrement, animal carcasses, still living victims of illness. Sometimes they'd bundle everything up into a terrible package and fling the whole thing over the wall. An extra special delivery. Death positive, as we all are here, there's definitely a psychological element to having dead things showered down upon you. As in, no thank you. And in case you were like, good Christians would never fight in such a way. Have you read anything about the Middle Ages, my friend? I have some bad news. In 1097, during the First Crusade, Christian crusaders laid siege to the walled city of Nicaea. At first, the Turks behind Nicaea's walls were all like, we got this, we are safe behind these primo thick walls. But the crusaders were like, hold my mead. And then the Turks hear the unmistakable sound of hammering and wood chopping. That's catapult building sounds. And the Turks were like, and now? And the Crusaders start catapulting huge boulders at Nicaea's walls. So the Turks send out soldiers to fight the Crusaders, but that doesn't go so well for them and all the soldiers are killed. The Crusaders cut off the heads of the slain Turks, load the heads onto their catapult, and rain the heads of the fallen Nicaeans down upon their living comrades. This move was less about biological warfare and was more just a good old-fashioned horror show. So traumatized were the Turks of Nicaea that they promptly surrendered. The last known corpse-flinging as bio-warfare scenario we know of would come in 1710, when the Russians were fighting the Swedes in the Great Northern War. Russian troops catapulted plague-infected corpses over the walls of the Swedish-held city of Reval, now the capital city of Estonia. Unlike the Mongols, the Russians won. Go Team Plague Corps!
Hooray!
Even if, in the year of our Lord 2021, we don't believe in miasma or bad corpse air anymore, even funeral professionals can have trouble letting go of this millennia-long slander of the corpse as somehow sinister. When I was giving a talk at a conference, a funeral director confronted me during the Q&A to say, a dead body can have diseases and things that may spread. How do you justify leaving a body at home unembalmed that may have these diseases? This is a criticism I have received countless times when advocating for families taking care of their own dead in the home. From the way some funeral directors talk, you would think I was trying to catapult Mongol plague bodies directly into the living rooms of these innocent families. Grandma had breast cancer. She did not have the plague. If biological warfare is part of our future, which it may be, humanity's great, I have no notes, the weapons will not be poor, innocent, dead bodies. Again, living people are always going to be better at spreading disease than dead bodies. But at the end of the day, no more launching corpses, folks. Let's leave that to the medieval experts because the Middle Ages were magic. You might be wondering, why is Caitlin relaxing? She should be hard at work creating more content. Where's our videos? All in good time, my babies. Mother needs a break. That means for the rest of July and August, we won't be releasing any new videos on our main YouTube channel. Instead, we'll be taking that time to research, write, and shoot some big videos we have planned for the fall. Videos that need a little more TLC. That's travel, love, corpses. Oh, but there's content. There's content. For those of you on our Patreon, we will still have our monthly vlog, as well as exclusive, fully produced patrons-only videos in the months of July and August. The story quickly became that she died by choking on a sandwich. Another popular prank was for local high school seniors to steal Eugene. And if you're not a patron, no sweat. We have an Instagram where we're gonna have new content. What I'm saying is you're gonna have to try hard to have a true break from me. If that's what you want, why do we need a break? I thought this was going really well. Jason! Okay, have a good summer, deathlings. Caitlin out. This video was made with generous donations from death enthusiasts just like you. Okay, I'm a medieval woman. I'm like,
It was rats. 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 Rat. 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 Rats. It was a rat. 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 It was a rat.
fun.
Rats. It was
Fun.
rats.
It's still not the f***ing best, you know? If it's not the f***ing best, not for this channel.
Rats.
It's a corpse falling on my head. Spoiler.
Rats.
I love the smell of failure in the morning.
Rats.
Fix my hair. Fix my shirt.
Rats.
That's turkey? No.
It was rats.
Why are my ears and stuff? It's always cutting me off when I'm trying to talk about catapulting dead horses. It's like, come on.
Rats.
It's most certainly rats. Caitlin out.